Before we get into this episode, there's something that might be of interest that I wanted to tell you about. Scene and Heard, who run this podcast, have been asked by Scotland Food and Drink to undertake a strategic review of the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards. Now, these Excellence Awards have been going for almost 20 years and are a huge mainstay of the food and drink sector. But it's time to ensure that they're still relevant. So if you have ever been involved in the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards, or even if you've ever had an opinion about them, we would love for you, please, to complete our survey. So if you go to the OnFARM Twitter, which is at @on_farm UK, and click the link in the bio, there will be a tab in there that will take you to the survey, and it should only take you a very short while to complete, but we would be enormously grateful. Hello and welcome to OnFARM. I am Anna Davis, and today I am outside on the farm at home. You might be able to hear the grain dryer in the background. It's a bit noisy, so I apologise if you can. But I am in the field here. It's a bit soggy underfoot because it's been raining. I've come out to see the horses. They're already giving each other dirty looks because they want to fight over the pieces of carrot that I've got. So, hi Duke. This is Duke, the big one. He's 16 hands. And then this is Angus, the miniature Shetland. So he's not even 9 hands, we don't think. Hi Lona. That's Lona. She's 13 too. She's my eldest daughter's pony. And Chuckles, he's in the distance. He's a little bit aloof, so he might not be coming to say hello, but he's 11 too, and he belongs to my other daughter. And I've come out to see them, to give them a piece of carrot, but also just because sometimes just spending time with these 3 boys and a girl we've got, sometimes just spending time with them is just really therapeutic, even when they're trying to fight with each other. So as you might have guessed, today's podcast is all about horses. You'll find out more about it in a minute. Horses and people, actually, I should say. And it's fascinating. So even if you're not a horsey person, this is not about riding horses. It's about the benefit that they can bring to a whole range of people. So enjoy. Sit back, have a cup of tea and enjoy.
My name is Julie-Anne Griffith, and I'm a director of a community interest company called Equi-Scotia. We set it up last year in February 2020. We'd done a couple of years' worth of pilot projects with equine facilitated learning for leadership. And of course, February 2020, we didn't really see what was coming. So by the time we were up and running for a month, we couldn't really do what we'd wanted to do, which was get out there and do stuff with horses. So we switched track fairly quickly. We got some support from the Scottish Government through First Port, and I'd submitted an initial business plan to them. And then when COVID hit, we went, actually, we think we want to slightly shift the focus for our community benefit to educating people to do non-riding work with horses to support mental health and well-being, because we could see what was coming. Firstly, centres like Riding for Disabled places couldn't get people on horses, and they were absolute experts at getting kids out of a wheelchair and onto a horse, but they were a wee bit at sea, not sure what they could do that would add value when they were not riding. So we put together some online tasters, which started last April, May time, and since then it's just grown. And so we've had about 160 odd people through our online introduction programme, which explains what equine facilitated learning and psychotherapy are. Probably to most people that are involved with equestrianism, it's kind of horse hugging and a bit woo-woo. It's not really what they do. And, you know, I trained originally as a horse riding instructor way back in the 80s, and I kind of moved away from that field of work, teaching horse riding, to supporting people to develop their professional and personal competencies really through its coaching in the presence of a horse.
Wow. So what types of people then have gone through the courses so far, and what types of people are you likely to be meeting in future?
It's a really interesting mixture, actually, Anna. And I think to start with, the very first cohort was 100% Riding for Disabled coaches from the Edinburgh and Borders region. And they have been great advocates of our work and have kind of hit the ground running with a couple of centres, one in Edinburgh and one in Fife, who have really got on and delivered some super services on the ground, supporting mental health and wellbeing when they could between, the different lockdowns. And since then, the word's got out, and we've been very not strategic about our marketing, and hence my initial contact with you. And I think it's all gone through word of mouth, where we've had I would say somewhere between 25 and 30% of the people that have been through our programs have been coaches associated with a member group of the Riding for Disabled Association. Slightly fewer horse riding coaches who have an interest in the personal development side rather than the competitive side of things. We've had people we've got a very successful social entrepreneur who runs a fabulous organisation on the borders with horses. And the rest of the people are from a real wide range of backgrounds. So we've had social workers, special ed teachers, psychotherapists, counsellors, and people who are interested in that supporting the development of social and emotional competencies rather than equestrianism.
So why horses then? Could these people not perform a Google search or speak to their local business gateway or whomever and find some sort of leadership and personal development training where they do it online, or perhaps they turn up to an office in the centre of Edinburgh somewhere? How is horses making this different and, dare I say it, better?
Well, yeah, it's very experiential, Anna. So, and you'll know yourself having horses that they sense things, and I think essentially you can go to a classroom and learn any amount of theory, but I think is for the majority of people, some element of experiential learning and reflective practice is really what leverages some change, really. And most people are going to some kind of training to learn something new so they can do something a little bit differently or a little bit better or a little bit more efficiently. So the wonderful thing with horses is that people are more likely to listen to the signals they get from a horse than they are to another human being. Horses and all other mammals, really, that have got this, our brains work differently to theirs, basically. So, we have a cortex wrapped around our brain, which means that people tend to suppress their emotions and try to think through problems. But horses don't work that way. They live in the moment, and they are the original mindful being. And you watch a bunch of mindful horses in a field, you're watching the original kind of office dynamic play out there. And people learn to look at the finer signs of how horses communicate. And predominantly horses communicate non-verbally. So with human beings, they do say it's, over 80% of our communication is non-verbal. So we can help people to get a wee bit more in tune with themselves. So it's very much about self-awareness, regulating the self, and understanding how your own way of being impacts on the people around about you. And that's something that's quite hard to learn out of a textbook or in a classroom. It's really a much more powerful thing to experience it in the space with a horse and some other people.
So we are speaking to each other on Zoom at the moment just because time and geography dictates. But if I was with you now and we were in a riding arena or a field joined by a horse and I was participating in one of your programs, what kind of thing would we be doing?
So, for example, you've got horses on the farm there. I would say you could go out and try it tonight. And it would be not being so busy. And anyone who's involved with horses already has usually got a very long to-do list. You've got these animals to look after, you've got a family, you've got a job, you've got whatever other commitments you have. And I think for me, making that shift from horse riding instructor to kind of coach facilitator was a bit of a leap, actually. It's more about awareness of being present. So if you went out to your field tonight, rather than rush to do the jobs and get back in to make the dinner, if you just took half an hour to sit somewhere near your horse, whether it's in the field or in the stable, and just be and notice what you notice.
That's very interesting, actually, because I would say my 8-year-old daughter is very good at that. Sometimes I envy her. She doesn't have to hurry in and, as you say, and cook the tea and do the washing. She doesn't have the same sense of urgency in her life. And quite often we say, oh, where's Honor gone? And she'll just be outside, just being with the horses and having a chat with them, probably telling them her woes. Yeah, that's not something that I feel like I have time to do, because I suppose I don't understand, even as a horse owner, I don't understand the importance of doing that. So I guess what you're saying is, yeah, for people who are already immersed in equestrianism, could benefit from just taking more time and listening to the cues.
Yeah, listening to the horse. I mean, the whole equestrian sector is moving forward at a pace in terms of what's in it for the horse. There's been such a lot of bad press in the last year or so about how people engage with horses. And I think the wonderful thing about the work that we're doing is it kind of supports that social license to operate this relationship between the human and the horse, because there's quite a growing body of evidence that the more the horse has choice over its situation, the better for its well-being. And some of the practitioners in the States have got some papers supporting the fact that this kind of work is actually as good for the horse as it is for the human. And it's, when you see a herd of horses in operation, they kind of co-regulate, so they sense things that are going on. If one spooks at something, the others run away. And if I read a story once about a herd of horses that got in a highly aroused state because somebody had lit a match and set a little fire off. It had sparked off a horse half a mile away, and it had whinnied, and the whole of the rest of the herd that couldn't see the fire were in panic. So what actually happens is, if a horse is calm and it's breathing slowly, and the person is a bit anxious, we see it all the time in therapeutic settings, that you don't have to do very much, but the person automatically, by virtue of being in the space with the horse, their heart rate variability begins to kind of align. So the Heart Math Institute have done some studies to show that it's the same with kids touching, stroking a cat or a dog or a horse. You're automatically, when in that space with the animal, are tuning in to its way of being. So if it's a calm horse, highly anxious people can be calmed down by just being in that energy field beside the horse. You don't really have to do a huge amount. And it's not like going for therapy. It just happens by itself. So it's more fun. And kids love to come and groom horses and rub them and stuff like that. So it's a whole lot more appealing to most people than going for psychotherapy in a room somewhere.
Much less daunting as well, I imagine, for many people. And I suppose what's coming across as well is that, you talked initially about the benefits of this on people's leadership abilities, and I'd be quite keen to come back and talk about that in a bit more detail. But actually, what you've said also there is this is not just about leadership. This is about well-being and mental health and anxiety, and effectively whatever areas of our lives we feel need improvement, or we need to work on, or we're worried about. My husband's going to hate me when I say this, but a horse is the answer to everything.
Yeah, well, actually, it can be. Yeah, it can be helpful for lots of things.
Wow, yeah, it's amazing, actually. But yeah, the leadership thing, and the reason why I'm asking is that actually last week's podcast, we were talking about women in agriculture and a new programme that's ongoing at the moment, looking at personal development for women and allowing them to strengthen their skills, but particularly in the area of leadership, because there are many things coming into play, not just for women, but for everybody, in terms of confidence and the ability to feel as though your voice is being heard and the ability to get your voice heard. So when it comes to leadership, I know obviously being around the horse, as you said, makes people calm down. It makes them more perceptive to non-verbal cues. But specifically when it comes to improving our leadership skills, what kind of things are people learning when they come through your courses?
It's a bit corny, but it is horses for courses. It depends what challenge they bring with them. But if I can give, for an example, we had a group of leaders from the education sector a couple of years ago, and they were all quite senior people aspiring to be, in charge of an educational establishment. And they were on this leadership development course, and they got put into a bit of a huddle to spar ideas on, okay, what are the biggest challenges in our sector? So they took a bit of time to kind of decide what the major challenges were. And one of those was mental health of everybody involved, the people, the student, the academic leaders, the lecturers, the students, the workplace providers, all this thing. And they got asked to create a representation of their sector in a kind of alleyway. And they were to position these challenges, the 3 key challenges that they'd all agreed on. And the really interesting thing from that particular group was how complicated they made their vision of what it was on the ground. And they made it so highly complex. It wasn't until they realised how really complicated it was that, my goodness, could we not make it simpler? And there was one particular person that was a real interesting moment for me, where everyone was asked to be contributing to a particular personal challenge they had as well. And each were asked to have one little item. And one person, instead of picking one item, picked 12 hoops. And I thought, I think I know what's coming here next. You've always got hoops to jump through wherever you are. And so this person scattered all these hoops all over the place. Then what they did was they got a chance to lead a horse through this. And they didn't just lead a horse as we would normally do to, say, lead it out to the field, but they did what we call butterfly leading. So that means that we give them each a long line. They've got like 3-meter long lead ropes. They're not really holding the horse tightly. It's quite a smile in the rope sort of effort. And they're not allowed to talk during this process. They focus on the things that are their challenge and all that sort of stuff. So off they go, and they lift their energy, and then off they go and they walk through. Well, this one lady had a person she was working with to negotiate the hoops that she had to jump through. And the horse either stepped over, stepped around, and wasn't fazed by any of these hoops at all. So at the end of that session, we said to her, actually, and in reflection, what went on there? What were you feeling about this challenge that you said? And at the end of the day, she said, well, actually, I'm just realising that all those hoops I thought I had to tell my staff what to do with, I just leave them to it because I didn't trip anybody up. So it was just that insight that you find hard to get from feedback from people. But similar things with youth transition programs, how to get a job. And after 15 minutes, they've each come up with a really constructive, sensible thing about their practice that will help them get a job.
Oh, so often in these sessions, then the people participating are not allowed to speak with each other. They've got to, I suppose, take a leaf out of the horse's book and use non-verbal cues in order to communicate with each other. That must be quite hard for some people because we're so used to using our voices all the time.
Yeah, it is. And I think one of the big, we don't do that all the time, but it's quite a nice way to, and the other thing, if you're not allowed to speak, the other thing that we can do is we can take away the eyesight. You can either just shut your eyes if you feel comfortable with it. It heightens all your other senses. So it just makes you be that bit more present. And I think it's all about, no matter whether you are a young person in care transitioning to independent living, someone living with a chronic disability, or you're a high-profile executive leader, it's all the same basics that we all need to get what we want to achieve out of our lives. We all need to have good physical and mental health. We need to have good self-awareness. And it's basically building on emotional intelligence competencies. So it's awareness of yourself, awareness of others, ability to manage yourself, and an ability to, engage in healthy relationships with others. So, and it doesn't matter where you are in life. That's something that follows you through from childhood to the end, So it can be adapted to meet the needs of the goal. It's just like coaching person to person. You set a goal, you have a theme for a program, and you bring in some exercises that help the person to develop the specific competencies they want to look at.
Wow. And from a practical perspective, how does it work then? I mean, obviously we're kind of hopefully coming out, dare I say it, of the pandemic. But how will you operate going forward? For example, if I wanted to bring my team down for a one-off team building type day, or if there was somebody who wanted to go through a more long-term experience, how are the different ways that people can engage with you and with Equi-Scotia?
With Equi-Scotia, we don't have our own centre, but one of the reasons we try to work with other centres is that quite often, particularly the one I've worked with now for about 7 years, which is near Dunfermline, they tend to be full to capacity for horse riding. They can't do any more. They don't have enough suitable horses to deliver any more horse riding lessons. However, they've got capacity of facilities and resources. So we currently, in Scotland, most of our work to date has been at the centre near Dunfermline, where we've done some leadership development and youth transition programmes, as well as training, providing practical training for our own practitioners. So we would probably find a partner venue. So there's a bit of a win-win there, that we can generate income for a mainstream riding school or a charity that has horses. We tend to prefer to work with licensed facilities where we can, because we know that the basic safety checks are in place there. But we're open to any person who thinks they've got the right sort of facility that wants to host something. But we have a couple of other centres in Scotland that have expressed an interest in getting involved. So
people can come then, as long as they've got to liaise with you. But you can offer sort of more one-off sessions. But then it sounds as though you're also very much, you're a young company, aren't you? So you're very much in the process of training up practitioners to be able to expand the services that you offer. Is that right?
Yes, it is. I mean, at the moment, there's myself and Mike as the two main active directors here in Scotland, and we've got Dr. Kim Brown, who's down on the south coast, she tends to do our kind of internal verifying of the academic work. But Mike and I can only deliver so much, and I think there's such a demand now for the work that we're really trying to focus on supporting our own network of practitioners. So we currently have 25 training with us, 5 of whom are quite near finishing. So we would definitely be signposting people to their nearest Equi-Scotia practitioner, rather than saying, hey, come to us at the venue where we train our practitioners as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah. No, I think this is so interesting, partly because it's a passion of mine, but partly because actually I can see its relevance to everybody. But you must have had a few people coming through who are petrified of horses. How have you found kind of witnessing their journey? I suppose maybe more satisfying perhaps than the journey of somebody who's already comfortable around horses.
Yes, that's a very good point, Anna. We do from time to time. In fact, a lot of this work isn't with people that are comfortable with horses already. It's very rare that a horse owner or a weekly riding person at a riding school says, hey, I want an equine facilitated learning session. They usually, once they start riding, that's what they get kind of focused on. Normally, our work involves people that are not that familiar with horses. So the large majority of them would say to me, I've never been near a horse before. We did a course with the Venture Trust a few years ago, which was kids from Glasgow. Not a single one of them had been near a horse ever in their life. They had never touched one. And we did a combined equestrian vaulting and equine facilitated learning program for the last group we did. And within 3 days, they were all supporting each other and leading horses. They were happy to groom and pick up a horse's feet wearing a blindfold, and they were able to stand on the back of the horse while it was walking. They go very quickly in a supportive environment to learning in this new skill. And the wonderful thing about that is it teaches them that it's okay to try things that are outside of your comfort zone, and how quickly they can build trust with a group. And they can be, it just automatically creates this very supportive environment. I'll never forget the day there was one lady sent 4 boys from a school in Falkirk. They'd never been near a horse before. And that particular day, we weren't doing the groundwork, we were actually vaulting, but they were helping each other on and off the horse. And they only came for one session, and the teacher said, you would not believe the difference in this class in IT. That's the first time she'd ever seen them help each other as a group. And she said they took that with them straight back to the classroom, and it shifted the whole dynamic.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, I suppose that's it, isn't it? We can, in daily life, we all running around in haste usually, or something. So we're busy, or maybe something will annoy us. And, we're too used to being very vocal, perhaps very loud, perhaps kind of, running about the place. And actually, as much as anything, I find even just being around my own horses forces you to take a deep breath and slow down. Because if you start running around and behaving like a crazy fool, you scare the animals. So, even just 5 minutes with them can just calm down your day somehow. And I suppose that's just on the very kind of, minor end of the spectrum. But for people who've got, real challenges with anxiety or behaviour or mental health, that small thing can make such a difference, can't it?
It can. It's really interesting because we did this online introduction courses that we do. The session we ran last night was basically, it's called Managing Anxiety Through Being with Horses, and it teaches people a little bit about the different theories that make, the explanations for why it happens. So we touch a little bit on attachment theory. So that taps into attachment theory between humans, and we lean quite a lot on equitation science principles. So we've got some lovely video clips there shared by Andrew McLean, who's based in Australia. And the folks love to hear his stories about, how you just scratching a horse on the wither and waiting till the horse wiggles its nose back at you. It basically encourages that connection between the horse and the human, and the heart rates go down by 10 beats per minute when the horse is relaxed, and then that then transfers on the person. So the other thing we talk about is the polyvagal system. So, how your body reacts when it's calm, how it reacts when you are in a fight or flight mode, and then if it got to the highest level of anxiety, that you might just freeze. So we teach a little bit about that, and some self-regulation exercises. And one of the most interesting comments that we've had over the year or so we've delivered this has been, there's a piece of video we show, and it's horses at peace grazing in a paddock and munching hay, and there's something just very grounding and peaceful about listening to a horse munching on its hay.
Yeah, in fact, we've got 4 horses and 2 sheep as well, actually, and quite often when it's nice weather, I'll sit outside, and if they're close to the fence, you can literally hear them pulling at the grass, and that in itself is a very therapeutic thing to listen to, and just watching them in such a calm state just calms you down, and that's before you even go near to or touch them. It is really, really powerful. And I think if I'm having a bad day, just going out for a ride or having a chat with Duke definitely improves my day. Julie-Anne, you've been going now for, I suppose, not far off 2 years, maybe 18 months. If we were to have you back on the podcast in another 2 years from now, what would you hope to be telling me about what's happening at Equi-Scotia?
Well, I think we've got plans in the pipeline for new online courses next year, which are more targeted towards understanding a bit more about mental health and well-being, and allowing people to go tinker with horses and do something that they can see an effect on mental health and well-being. We've stuck to delivery in practical courses in Scotland to date, but we've got a course in Bristol in March that we're about to start promoting, and we're looking to do some other venues for practical training. We have been in discussions with a number of different organisations around the UK. Can't say at this stage where they are, but the Bristol dates firmed up for March. So yeah, I think it would be more, we will by next year have 25 fully trained practitioners, and we will probably have another cohort. We'll be taking on a new intake of professional certificate students in March next year. So that'll be another 10 to 12 people from around the UK who could be in the future delivering these services. So in a couple of years' time, probably we're going to have about 40 plus practitioners around the UK. I'm really curious about exploring more international markets. We have had online students from USA, we had a couple of weeks ago, Barbados and Greek islands. So the fact that it's gone online and the introductory stuff's online means there is potential that we might be able to do some practical training in other countries at some point when the restrictions ease a bit. So yeah, definitely moving a wee bit out of Scotland, a little bit further afield, and shifting, being a bit more of a funnel for our practitioners, really, and trying to. We've got a lovely group of people working with us actually, and it's quite a supportive band of people. And we're trying to encourage them to work in a kind of co-production approach where they work in partnership and they create services that are needed in their local areas. And we're connecting psychotherapists with horse people, counsellors with horse people. And you kind of need both ends of it. You need someone that knows how to run a a safe horse establishment, and you also need that mental health and, you know, coaching input that's not the same as coaching horse riding. It's like either executive or life coaching kind of approaches.
Yes, yeah, makes sense. So do you have any scope, if anybody listening is thinking, oh my goodness, that being a practitioner is just up my street, or somebody might be thinking, hey, this is just perfect for my wife or daughter or son or cousin. Do you have any scope for more people to sign up, or are you pretty chock-a-block at the moment?
I'd say for all of our practical stuff this year, we're sold out, but we do have some spaces in November and December for the online course. And for next March, our website's within the next couple of weeks going to be updated. So there will be new information about the new programme beginning in March 2022 for professional practitioners. But we'd always advise that our intro online is a good place to start, because that way you get a sense of the difference between coaching horse riding and this field of work. And it's even if you're already, we've had psychotherapists, counsellors, horse riding instructors. It's great to get them all in the room together and share their different insights at the intro level. And that way, they know what they're buying into to progress it further.
And then for moving on from the practitioners, from a point of view of somebody thinking, oh, I run a small team, or, I'm in a leadership role myself, and actually I think I just need a bit of a fresh approach. How do people start to engage with you on that front?
Just send in a contact request through the website, Equi-Scotia.com, and we progress it from there. We probably can't accommodate anything till the spring. We're just too busy with other things at the moment.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing and great that you're busy, because I think you probably set up, unbeknownst to you at the time, you probably set up this community interest company at the most challenging time, I think, didn't you? A month before COVID and lockdown hit.
It was really challenging, actually, because Mike and I decided to set the company up, and he said, it's going to be busy this year, so I'm off to Barbados to celebrate my 60th birthday, which he did. But then, of course, he got COVID and got stranded in Barbados. So it was kind of me firefighting for quite a while, because he got stranded over there. He took a while to get better, and he still has long COVID, actually. So his health is up and down. And so it has been really challenging, actually, but it's amazing, actually. It's taken off a lot quicker than we thought. I did have other work projects I was juggling alongside this until April of this year, and I just had to make the leap to let go everything else and focus on this full time, because it was getting so busy. So
yeah, well, fantastic, and I do want to come back, if it's okay, and talk to you again. I know that with a lot of people who go through the course, there'll be a lot of confidentiality that we have to maintain, which is totally fair enough. But I think if we talk again in 18 months, you'll probably have some amazing stories of, you've got plenty already, but, even more amazing stories of people who've benefited enormously from this. And I'm really excited, because I think, as we see the way that some of our children have suffered throughout the pandemic, and adults alike, and how that's impacted upon home life and business, I think the relevance of what you're doing, in my mind, is even stronger than ever before.
Absolutely. And I think it's all having to be kind of trauma informed nowadays, because, no matter what your family circumstances, or, every child in the land has been through some adverse childhood experience through not being able to go to school for a year almost. So, when we're the more people we can help while they are still coping reasonably well, the better. And I think, there'll be a large band of kind of coaches trained to support low-level mental health challenges, but getting psychotherapists and people involved with more complex things, if people aren't supported at that sort of early intervention stage, then it can become an awful lot more challenging for them to get well. And also it's obviously more costly. But I think when you see the huge and quick impact it has for people from all walks of life to engage with a horse, it can make a huge difference. And I've seen kids that half an hour with a horse once a week makes a huge difference to not just them and their anxiety levels, but their whole family. Especially kids with spectrum disorders, they can be, thank God they've had their weekly fix of a horse. He's smiling now, he's not angry at me. So yeah, it does. It's amazing. It's great work. I love it, actually.
I bet you do. I mean, it's literally no exaggeration, life-changing, and that must be very satisfying for you to see.
It is actually, yeah, and it's funny because I'm looking at myself thinking, well, actually, it kind of joins the dots on all the things I've ever done in my whole life, because I did start life as a horse riding coach. So I did some leadership stuff in education and communications, and then I came back round to doing coaching, executive coaching, and then I bolted on this coaching in the presence of a horse, and it just kind of that's where we've ended up. So yeah, it's nice just to be able to feel I'm using everything I've learned along the way.
Well done you, and I'm really grateful for you taking the time to chat to me, and I've found this even more fascinating than I thought I would, actually. So I mean, it's amazing, and I think anybody out there who thinks that this can benefit them, please get in touch with Julie-Anne. And also, if you already have a horse or your friend has a horse, obviously ask permission first, but just go outside and be in less of a hurry and spend a bit more time with them, because I think I'm going to do exactly that this afternoon, and I'm fairly sure I'll feel better as a result. So thank you very much. Just before we sign off, just one more time, could you give people the website address again, please, Julie-Anne?
Yes, it's www.equi-Scotia.com. So that's EQUI-Scotia is SCOTIA.com. And you can send in a contact request through the website.
Massive thanks there to Julie-Anne. Hugely knowledgeable she is about horses, but also about leadership, personal development. In fact, I met Julie-Anne because we both did the Scottish Enterprise Rural Leadership Programme. I hope you found that really insightful. And if you are interested in getting involved, then Julie-Anne obviously gave you the web address there. So please do get in touch with her. No, Duke, I don't have any more carrots. You've eaten the whole lot. We always, or in this series, I should say, we have started to give you some recommendations for other podcasts to listen to. So today's recommendation obviously needs to be horsey, and it is from the British Equestrian Federation. So it's the British Equestrian Podcast. You just need to Google that and you'll be able to find it. And they look at a whole range of different horsey topics, including all of the various competitions and championships that take place. So it's well worth a listen. And thank you again for tuning into the OnFARM podcast, and we'll be back again next week.